you want to make it make sense. Come on, you know you want to make it.
Huh? What?
Come on, let's make it. Come on, let's make it. Come on, let's make it make sense.
Welcome to Make It Make Sense, the game show that everyone's watching while Big Brother watches you. My name is Steve Champagne. I'm your host. Let's meet our contestants, starting with our returning champion, Madison Smithson. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. Well, I live in Tel Aviv. I love all people, except people that don't love other people. And I'm just really happy to be here. And I love that I'm the reigning champion. Let's go again.
Yeah, and my notes tell me that you're still fully vaxxed, right?
Eighth one already.
All right, okay. Now we have our new contestants, starting with Satmar Saperstein. Tell us a little about yourself.
I hate all of humanity and everything in it.
I like you already as much as you hate me. And finally, Bruce Bielacki.
Yeah, my name is Bruce Bielacki. I'm from Jerusalem. I love pontificating on big works of art and poetry, walks on the beach, and maybe some musica.
Let's start our game, Make It Make Sense. The rules are very simple. We have two categories for tonight, plus a wild card. The two categories are October 7th and Science and Health. I will give you a question or a scenario that you have to make sense out of it. Very simple. There are multiple right answers. There's usually only one wrong answer. You want to avoid that one. And let's just begin.
Come on, let's make it make sense.
So we're going to start with Madison as the returning champion. Which category would you like to start with for tonight?
Let's do October 7th.
All right. The same people responsible for what happened on October 7th get to lead Israel into war. Make it make sense. Madison.
They were caught by surprise. They felt really bad about it. And they said, I'm going to make it up to the Israeli people and send in as many of our boys in the ground war so that we don't hurt any of the poor Palestinians that aren't involved. And that just makes sense. They want to get them back for surprising us so badly.
That makes sense to me. That's 50 points for you. Any of our other contestants want to explain how that makes sense? Bruce.
I just want to say, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, if I'm in my kitchen and I spilled milk on the floor, then I should be the one to wipe up the milk off of the floor.
That makes sense to me. Absolutely. 50 points for you. Any other explanations? Sadmar, you want to jump in?
I feel like the people that allowed an inside job should not be at their jobs currently.
Whoa. Now, that does not make any sense. First of all, we're not supposed to ask these kind of questions in a time of war. And second of all, are you some kind of a military genius or something?
I have no military background.
Oh, well, I can see that. 0 points for you, Satmar. Madison, we'll go back to you. Would you like to pick another category?
Let's do October 7th.
All right, then. Here you go. Trucks of aid are being sent daily to Gaza, and we know that Hamas is going to be commandeering much or all of that material, and yet the IDF soldiers don't have many of their basic needs. Make it make sense. Madison.
It makes sense because we're the ones using a lot of force on them right now. They only killed 1,200 of our people. We're killing a lot more, so they should get the aid.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. Bruce, what do you have?
You know, from what I learned in school with the maps and the spellings and what they tell me, it seems to be that we have to be passionate to our enemies and show them kindness. So allowing them things like clothes and maybe some food to eat and maybe some concrete, I don't know if they need it, seems to be the right thing to do. At least for the moment. You know, I don't know. I'm just doing the math on this one, and that's what I'm pontificating.
My handler always told me that the only way to win a war is by making your enemies love you. That's the best way. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Sadmar, you want to jump in this time?
Yeah, I feel like if there's, no living people left in Gaza, we won't have to waste so much time and effort bringing them food and supplies. But maybe that's just me.
Well, that sounds like a very racist answer. I think you want to watch your back if you're going to be spewing racism on this program.
I think it specifically says in the Bible that you need to keep your enemies in the land, and then they won't be a thorn in your side.
Right. My Bible says you have to love everybody, and that is the complete Bible. That's the only thing that's written in my Bible is you just have to love everybody. That is the Bible. So you still have 0 points. Sorry. Try a little harder. Okay, Madison, would you like to pick another category?
Sciences and health.
Oh, science and health. Okay, so here we go. People who didn't take the COVID shots aren't the ones dying suddenly. And yet the people who did take the shots are dying suddenly. Make it make sense.
It's just a coincidence. But just because it happens right after people dropping dead does not mean that they didn't have pre-existing conditions that would have killed them anyway. I'm protecting all the grandmothers and grandfathers out there.
That's
All of
right. In
them.
fact, that's the best answer. You just hit the best answer, which is 75 points. The people who didn't take the shots are not dying because the people who are dying protected them by taking the shots. That is the best
Exactly.
answer. Okay, Bruce, so the best you can do now is the second best answer, but go for it.
I want to take a stab or a poke at it, if you don't mind, because
Oh, I
I
like
got to thinking about this situation, and my understanding is that maybe there are people who are dying because there are still some people out there that did not get the injections, and you know how it is. If they're out there and they didn't get it, then they're just spreading it like rapid fire.
Man, that just
right.
makes me tear up. That is so beautiful and so true. You also get 75 points. But the point system is arbitrary. You get another 75 points. Satmar, I'm a little bit leery of asking you if you have anything to contribute about this. You don't look like a doctor to me, but what do you have?
Typically, when people are poisoned, they drop dead. That's what I was taught in school. I might be wrong, but
So
Nope.
are you a doctor? Are you saying that you went to medical school? You're some kind of an expert on medicine and you're a doctor now that you're saying that this has anything to do with
I have
poison?
no medical training or background.
Well, I can see that. I can see that. That shines through because my doctor told me that the shot makes you healthy and live forever. So you're clearly not a doctor. And if you were a doctor, by the way, we would make sure you weren't a doctor after this program. Okay, so Satmar is still on 0 points. If it was possible to give you negative points, I would do that. But we can only do that with bank accounts, not with points. So you're still on 0, buddy. You might want to change your strategy for how you're playing the game. So, Bruce, let's throw it to you now because you've also gotten all your answers correct so far. Would you like to pick a category?
Okay, I would love to go for a wild card because I like to think of myself as a wild card.
I will give you a wild card question. And this has to do with Donald Trump, Donald J. Trump. The J stands for Jesus. And here's the scenario. Anti-vaxxers support Trump, including people who are very much against the blessed COVID shots. And yet, Donald Trump is the single man most responsible for bringing the blessing of COVID lockdowns and the COVID shots to America and still bragged about it. And yet, the anti-vaxxers support him and think he's the Messiah. Make that make sense.
Well, I like to think that Operation Warp Speed is the speed of a time machine. And if I could go into a time machine, I'd go back and I'd shake his hand and say, thank you, Donald Jesus Trump, for all the hard work you do.
That makes sense. That's another 65 points for you. Anybody else want to explain why the anti-vaxxers support the man who brought them the COVID shots at warp speed? Madison, make it make sense.
His name ain't Donald Trump, it's Donald Dump. And those anti-vaxxers can support them all they want, but he's not winning because we got Kamala. I'm with her. She took all the shots. She probably has 10 by now. She knows what's up.
That has nothing to do with the question, but it makes sense. So I'll give you 50 points.
Thank you.
Satmar, I see those wheels turning.
I think at some point we need to just understand how stupid almost all of humanity is, whether they're vaxxed or not vaxxed, whether they're pro-Israel or anti-Israel. Most of the human population is utterly stupid.
Wait, I'm sorry, Dr. Satmar, are you going to stick to the answer of the question, or are you just going to get to be judging on people?
Gonna be judging on people.
Well, he's the big genius, but unfortunately, you're not the host of the program. And as far as I know, you don't work for the CIA or the Shabak or any other 3-letter agencies. And therefore, if you don't want to die of suicide with 2 bullets in the back of your head, you may want to think a little more carefully before you speak, Mr. Satmar Saperstein. Anyway, back to the game. Bruce, will you give us a category? Do you want October 7th or health and science?
I would like health and sciences.
Health and sciences. Okay. The bird flu only affects chickens and human beings? Make it make sense. Bruce, you
A
jumped in first.
chicken is a bird. Now, I know at the same time there are some people out there going, oh yeah, well, flamingos, they birds. Okay, quail, them birds too. All right. Or how about sparrows and cardinals and blue jays? Now, they don't catch the bird flu and they blues, right? But chickens, they birds and they catch the bird flu. And you know what? If you're hanging out with a chicken and maybe you acting like a chicken, you're gonna go catch it too.
Meaning if somebody has the bird flu, by definition, he must be a bird. So that's why human beings can get it.
If the
That makes
shoe
sense.
fits, you're a bird.
If the bird flu fits, you got it. That makes sense. 50 points. Madison, what do you
I'm
have
just
to
thinking birds are taking some vaccine. So only the chickens got it, but the other birds are getting a good vaccine.
They
That's
certainly
probably what's
should be.
People
Or should I
shouldn't
say,
have chicken.
they
People
shouldn't have
shouldn't have
chicken.
chickens anyway. No,
They
they're
should
messy.
get the flu. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Why do
you
they
buy
have
it from the
chickens?
store. You don't
People shouldn't have
one-
anything. They shouldn't have
No.
any property whatsoever.
No,
Bad
it
for the
disrupts-
environment.
It disrupts the city if you have a chicken.
Especially by
Kill the
just owning things is bad for the environment.
They told me
Satmar.
I'm gonna be happy when I own nothing, and I'm
It's
looking
good to be
forward-
happy. Satmar, you're happy. Why did
Yeah.
bird flu only affect birds and human beings? Make it make sense.
Maybe it's just as big of a hoax as Corona was, and it's only affecting the people that the media is saying is affected.
Oh,
Boy, you're really looking for trouble, aren't you? You're not trying to win this game tonight. You don't want to.
I
Bill,
think
why
my
is he
answer-
here?
Very
Why is he
profound.
here?
I just want to remind you, Satmar, that one of the prizes for winning this game is that you can move from a 15-minute city into a 16-minute city. That's living a life of luxury. Now, who wouldn't want that? Bruce, would you like to pick another category? I say we go back to October 7th. We got a lot of good stuff.
I would
there.
like to
Speaking of
pick
my-
October 7th using my own free will for the conversation. October
Right.
7th.
because I didn't just basically order you to pick October 7th. You decided that entirely on your own. So here we go.
Bill.
Israel was able to defeat 3 countries and their combined armies in 6 days. And yet in 10 months, they can't defeat a ragtag terrorist operation in Gaza. Make it make sense.
Well, if you do the math on the 3 people with the current situation and the statistics of the population going back before the hyperinflation kicked in with the situation of the countries, it's much smaller numbers than the situation at hand that we have going on in the Gaza. Because in the Gaza, that'd be a lot more people than them 3 countries back then. Back then, it's like, what was $5 worth back then? Nothing, right? It's worth a lot more now. So all them people that lived back then in those different countries, it's like a small amount compared to the current population amount of people that are living in the Gaza area.
Right. So we can have like one of those charts and graphs that shows how it all makes sense, basically.
I
And
love charts and graphs.
In the 67 war, there was a lot of countries attacking us, and they didn't have the proper phones to call each other and make it all make sense together. So they were confused, and we got them in their confusion. But now there's cell phones. Those Hamas people, they recorded the whole thing. So everybody knew what was going on, and everybody planned it ahead of time. And we had no idea because they had better technology than us.
100 points for you. Satmar, you're still stuck on 0. Want to get some points for a change?
Has it occurred to anyone that our leftist traitors generals are trying not to win this war?
No, I don't even know what a leftist traitor general is.
Yeah,
Who
what's
is
that?
that?
Well,
Solid.
clearly, Mr. Dr. Expert
Right.
is also a military general expert, too. He knows things that nobody else knows.
And look, he lives in California.
Somebody's not reading the newspaper every day.
Yeah.
That's always the recommended way to prepare for this game show is reading the newspaper or
I learned
asking
everything
your
from
friends.
the newspaper. Yes.
and just doing
Yo.
whatever they say.
I just want to put something out there. Maybe just instead of sitting and hanging out by the Golden Gate Tunnel, maybe instead you should just be checking on the radio and the TV and learning from trusted, vetted sources that have real, what they like to say, information. Then
That's good advice. You should listen to his good advice. We have time for one more question, and this is the bonus round where you can score up to 1,000,000 points because there are so many answers that make sense and only one wrong answer that doesn't make sense. So here we go. How was Hamas allowed to run wild for 8 hours and more without a serious IDF response? Make it make sense. Madison, go first.
They told me that no one knew what was going on because they got there and got rid of all of our forces at once. They did it at once, unified with their phones.
That makes sense. That's a good answer. Any other answers? Bruce, give me some.
Oh, sure. You know, sometimes we be a little bit too technological for our own good. And in this case, it seems to be, you know, when you come in using what I like to say, the low technology, coming on little kites, maybe they just don't see you for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. One time I flew on a little kite and nobody saw me up in the sky. So, you know, you come in a little kite into a little festival. Everyone's like, yo, hey, man, you be tripping. This is an old festival. I like the kites, you know, like I like balloons. I like kites. So the low tech sort of kite approach, you know, maybe threw people off that they didn't realize that maybe something was actually really taking place.
Right? That makes sense. Any
Every
other
time.
answers? You can rack up the points now.
Nobody believed it was happening, so they just assumed it wasn't happening.
I still don't believe it happened.
It was so impossible that everyone said it's not happening.
Right. There you go. 4 points for you, Bruce. Make it make
Oh,
sense.
I want some more points. Yeah, what I like to say is I tell people that it took place on the Simchat Torah. And what happens is on a holiday like that, people, you know, you dancing, you kissing Torahs, you know, you dancing, you kissing Torahs. So who has even a moment to look out the window and start seeing things?
And like, who would think the bad guys are going to attack on a holiday? Like, they would have respect.
Not on Simchat Torah.
Makes sense.
I'm still surprised they did it. And there's another holiday coming up. They wouldn't do it again. They wouldn't dare. Satmar, what do you say?
It's definitely plausible that perfectly cut holes in the fence just happened to come up, you know, sort of like randomly, that all of the helicopters and planes were on stand-on orders for 8 hours, that nothing that approached the fence made any signals, that everyone was totally caught off guard, that all of our went down for 2 hours the first time ever. There's no possible way that this was a coordinated inside job. I don't think that that's possible. Or maybe it is.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but that makes a lot of sense to me. I think you're kind of getting up to speed with this game, so you get a lot of points for that. However, there's one thing you said that doesn't make sense, and therefore you only get a few points, and that was you said there were stand-down orders. Do you know that the world-famous Holocaust denier Hans Wienerschnitzel said exactly the same thing, that there was a conspiracy? Do you agree with Holocaust deniers? Are you yourself a Holocaust denier?
No.
If your opinions happen to be the same as bad people's opinions, you don't want to have those opinions anymore because they're obviously wrong.
And then you're
You
a
might
bad
want to just
person.
edit your opinion.
That makes sense.
That makes sense because it always makes sense when you play Make It Make Sense.
Wait, who won?
Who won? Well, you got the most points, but it so happens that all the money and points are donated back to the government because they keep you safe and you don't need to own anything anyway. So we all win, but you go home with nothing and you can be happy.
That is so inspiring. That's beautiful
And I'm
that they're
happy.
so generous like that.
We're on Zoom tonight, by the way, instead of our live studio because we're all on lockdown, so we have to go low tech. But if it saves one life, it's worth it because that's what we do here at Make It Make Sense. We save lives.
Come on, let's make it make sense.